Welcome to the fastest daf in town. Today we're learning Masechtas Ksubas daf Kuf. We are going to begin on the very bottom of Tzadi Tes Amud Beis by the Mishnah. Shum Hadayanim. So if you have the beis din that's involved in the evaluation of property and they sell it based on their evaluation, however, Shepichas Shtus or Hosif Shtus, they actually didn't do it properly. It was either a sixth overvalued or undervalued. Machon Batal. We say that the mechira is not good. That's too much of a break, too much of a difference from the actual value, and therefore it's not a good sale. However, he disagrees. This is machon kayim. It is a good sale because imkein makoyach beis din yafa. Because otherwise, then what are we doing with this beis din? Beis din will not look strong. It'll show a sign of weakness if, when it comes to some of their decisions, that we are just mavatal everything that they did, so then people are not going to show respect to beis din when it comes to other things. It says, if let's say you have an igeres b'koyres, you have this letter of investigation. Rashi says hachraza, that it's announced publicly. Loshin b'koyres shem vakrin oiso b'nei adam aydi hachraza. People started investigating because it was announced. So people are going to look into this property. So in that situation, because it was more well known that this transaction was about to take place, so the din is, since there was hachraz, even if it's a sixth, not only a sixth, but even if, let's say, it was worth 100 and they sold it for 200, it was worth 200 and they sold it for 100, it's still a good sale. Now, iboiluhu shliach kaman. So, what is the din when it comes to a shliach? Says Rashi. Shliach deta. So, when it comes to our Mishnah, we're talking about a mistake of beis din. What if the shliach is the one that made a mistake? Kaman daininan lay. How do we judge them? Kalmana daininan lay. Shabatois kol dehu batal. Kiditnan shabamana b'dinner b'mana machar batal. We saw in previous daf that if property was worth a mana and a dinner, but she sold it for a dinner, sold it rather for a mana, which is only a small difference. But since it was even a small difference, it's batal. Do we say a shliach who makes a mistake in that small regard also is like an almana, and therefore it's the mechir is batal? O kedayanim hu ve'ed deta b'shtus. Maybe we say that just like a beis din, so too when it comes to a shliach, they have up until 6. So that's the question. Shliach kaman. So as we continue to kuf and aleph, we have the words of Rabbi. Rabbi Oim Rav Nachman shliach kedayanim. He says that according to Rav Nachman, the shliach is just like a dayan, and therefore he has up until a sixth. Rav Shmuel bar Bisna Oim Rav Nachman ke'almana. No, that the shliach is like an almana, which means that even the slightest mistake, the mechira is batal. Rabbi Rav Nachman shliach kedayanim. Why does he say it's like a dayan? So man dayanim, just like when it comes to judges. Lav ledidhu, it's not their own property. Sav shliach nami lav ledidei. It's not something which is his. He's doing it for someone else. So in a certain regard, it's comparable more to a beis din, because a beis din, the shliach has nothing. It's not his property. There's no connection to his property. He's just doing his friend a favor. So it's more like that. Lafuki almana dolidida. Excluding when it comes to almana, the reason why she's selling her husband's estate is in order for her mizonos or possibly ksuba. So maybe again it makes sense not to compare them. Rabbi Shmuel bar Bisna Imer Rav Nachman kalmana malmana yichida shliach yachid lafuki beis din derabim ninhu behilchas shliach kalmana. So you can say that you can't compare it to a beis din because a beis din's rabim is a communal thing. So it's perhaps more logical to compare a shliach, which is an individual, to an almana. In fact, that is the halacha. So a shliach who makes a mistake, even the slightest amount, it is going to be batal. Question 6. Rav Nachman shliach kedayanim. Rav Shimon Oim Rav Nachman kalmana. Mahasvar deloi dami almana, mahasvar deloi dami dayanim. So it's not like a dayan because dayan is rabim and shliach and almana is yachid. Or alternatively, you can say that when it comes to almana, it's for herself, unlike when it comes to the shliach or the beis din, it's not theirs. They're not doing it for themselves. Okay. Weiter. So the halacha is, in fact, that a shliach cannot make even the slightest mistake. So ma'ishno mahad nan. How is this different from that which we saw previously, not too far back? When it comes to truma, in which you're supposed to separate, it's not so clear how much. But let's say a bani is 1/50th, 2%, and you ask a shliach to do so. So you should do it according to the way of the Baal Bias. Is it ayin yafe, ayin ra? Is he a stingy person, so he'd only give 1/60th? If he's a more generous, he'll give 1/40th. Ve'im en yodea daita shel Baal Bias term bebenis, which is echem echamishim. If you're not sure what type of guy this is, so you better just stick in the middle of the road and just give 1/50th. Piches asara hosev asara trumasa truma. In that situation, if a shliach makes a mistake, it's still okay. It's still a good truma. The question is why. How come when it comes to truma, if the shliach makes a mistake, it's still a good truma, but over here, if he makes a small little error in the valuation in the sale of this property, we say that the mechir is batal. So hasam over there, when it comes to truma, kivan diika detarim bayin ra, veika detarim bayin yafe, because there's some people who give 1/40th, there's some people who give 1/60th. So Armalei, so the shliach will say, lahachi amad ticha. This is how I evaluated him. I pegged him as a person that he would be someone that this is what he would end up giving. Avulhacha, when it comes to the land, to usahu, his mom was just a mistake, and therefore in that situation it doesn't work. Armalei loy boilach lemitoi. So he said, don't want this type of mistake. And therefore, because of that, the din is that it's, again, the mechira is batal. Rav Huna bar Chanina, Rav Nachman, halacha kedemi chachamim, halacha is like the chachamim. Huleis leil Rav Nachman, ma koyach beis in yafeh. Back to Gemara, Rav Nachman doesn't hold this concept that we're concerned of the koyach of beis din. V'yom Rav Nachman Amar Shmuel, Yisamim Shemalacha Minechsei Avihen. When it comes to the children, the orphans that are coming to divide their father's estate, so beis din mamidel hen apitropos. So the beis din, because they're katanim, will appoint a trustee to take care of the financial affairs. And they're going to do a good job to make sure that everyone gets a proper portion. However, once the kids get older, they can protest what the apitropos did. However, here's the key: Rav Nachman didei omer higdil ein yochon limchos im ken makoach beis in yafe. That the children, when they get older, they cannot protest, because otherwise the whole koyach of the beis din seems very weak. They point to an apitropos and they can just easily overturn what he did. So the question is, we clearly see that Rav Nachman holds of this concept of in kain ma koyach beis in yafe. Lo kasha again hadato hadaloto. What is the case? Our situation where they undervaluated the land, that's a mistake. Over here, they did not. The apitropos didn't make a mistake. One second, idolo tao, but ma yichon limchos. So what do you mean they're able to protest? What are they protesting? If it wasn't a mistake, the answer is beruchos. Says Rashi, toivli litu chelki b'mizrach sheish li etzla sadeh shenafoli mebeis aviimi. So it's very possible that they just want different land. It's not that they received not the proper amount of land or not the proper value of land. They both got the proper division of land. However, at the end of the day, they say, you know what, I'd rather have this property because it's near a different property that I have since acquired. So therefore, it's not really a mistake, and therefore, because of that, the din is different. Okay. Kiyas Rav Dimi Omer Masa, there's a story, Vyasa Rabbi Kedivi Chachamim. And that Rabbi ended up doing just like the Shittat Chachamim. I'm fond of Parata. So he said, Benoishel Rav Eliezer ben Parata, ben Benoishel Rav Parata, Agadol, Im Kain Makoich Beis in Yafe. So again, the question is that L'chari, you shouldn't be able to do this, because then otherwise the Chachamim, the Beis Din is weak. The Hechser Rabbi is a Masa, and he literally was chayzer, that he retracted, says Rashi, Denira be'enav Tam Hagun Masha Shninu B'Mishasinu Kin Makoich Beis Yafa. It makes sense when they said this concept of Makoich Beis Yafa, and therefore once it was already done, that's it. Just like our Mishnah that says that the Mechira is a good Mechira, so too in this situation the same din applies. Rav Dimi Masti Hachi, Rav Safra Masti Hachi. Masa, there was a story Bikish Rabbi Lasos Kederi Chachamim. They wanted to do like the words of the Chachamim and to say the whole thing can be uprooted. Ramafana of Parata Beno Shel Rabbi Lezer ben Parata ben Beno Shel Rab Parata Hagadol Imkin Makach Beis Yafa. Well, also Rabbi is a Masa, but he didn't do this in this way. Why did he not retract? He should have accepted this svara, because Mar Savarta b'davar Mishnah chayzer, Mar Savar enu chayzer. Maybe when it comes to someone who makes a mistake, but b'davar Mishnah, there's a machlokas whether or not you are chayzer, whether you retract on that mistake or not. Says Rashi, Rav Dimi, Rav Safar, Rav Dimi Savar, Dayin Hatoye. But if our Mishnah, if you have a judge that made a mistake regarding something which is explicit in the Mishnah, shul asa kamishna chayzer, then it has to be retracted. It says Rashi a few lines later, Shafa pishin nechachu chachamim al Rabbi Shimon hari nasan talmud avarav. So he's giving a reason. They're giving a reason for his logic. Well, the kuli yamatav of our Mishnah chayzer really should retract. So why didn't he retract? Some say this is the story, and some say this is the story. Okay. Rav Yosef. Our Malta, when it comes to a widow, Dezvina Achroyois Ayasmi, that she ended up selling property of the orphan, says Rashi. Im Nimsis Hasad Gazula. Let's say it turns out that the land that was sold was stolen. Oh, Mishubedis La'acher. Or that it was there was a lien on it to someone else, but tarpa min al-lokech, it was taken away. B'chayvo chayzel lokech el yisaimim. So the lokech can go back to the orphans. She'almana shliach shel yisamim haisa, because the almana who did the sale is connected to the yisaimim. She's like their shliach, and therefore they can go and make a taina to the yisaimim. Based in the zavan achrai, so that's when it comes to an almana. However, based in the Zavin Achrayas Ayasmi. So the same thing is that when the Beis Din sells something in the same regard, and people come after them, you go after the Yisaimim. So Pshit again, it sounds obvious. So Almana lo Uasrichale. When it comes to the case of the Almana, you're right, that is pretty self-evident that they can go after the Yisaimim. Ki Yisrichale Beidina. The Chinish is that when the Beis Din sells it, then, and it turns out that it was really encumbered property, nonetheless the din is that you go after the Yisomim are the ones who have to deal with it. So Ma'adatem, we continue to Kufam and Beis, because what would you think otherwise? Maybe that Kol de Zavin Mebeidina Adaita Lamepikli Kalhu de Zavin, Kamash Mulan. That when a person has property sold in Beis Din, there's going to be a kol about it, says Rashi. As we said, it's sold with a public announcement. And therefore the buyer is confident. If there were people complaining on this property, they would come out. And they would complain. So you would think actually he bought it without achrayas. Kamashmulan, the din is that he is able to go after the assignment and to be able to get his money. Okay, fine. So, according to Rabbi Shimon Gamliel, as we said in our Mishnah, that it's a mechiras kayim because of imkein makoich beis yafa. So on this, we're asked viad kama. So if they make a mistake, even beyond the 6, apparently it still works. But how much is this mistake? So Rab Huna bar Yehuda bar Rab Sheshes, according to Rabbi Shimon Gamliel, ad palga. Even if they under price the land up to a half. Tani Hachi Amar Rav Shimon Gamliel based in Shemachur Shava Mosayim B'Mana, because that's what it says in the Seifa. It was worth 200, they sold it for 100. Or Shava Mana Mosayim, it was worth 100, they sold it for 200. Machur and Kaim, it's still good. Amar Meimim Shmeidu Rav Yosef based in Shemachur Shalo Below Hachraza. If you have the based in that sells property and they did it without making an announcement, Nasa kami shito b'davar mishnah v'chayzrin. The fact that they're supposed to do hachraza, and the fact that they didn't, it's considered like they made a mistake b'davar mishnah, and therefore it's retracted. Nasu, because it's as if a mistake was made. Vade ta'u, what do you mean nasu? Right? Nasu kami. Vade ta'u. They certainly made a mistake. They have to announce it. Ditnan. Shumha yisaimim, when it comes to the evaluation, the announcements that they're going to make, shloishim yoim. It's for 30 days. That is the period of time that it's done, this announcement. B'shum ha'hekdesh, when it comes to evaluation, the announcements of hekdesh, shishim yoim. There, it's even longer. It's 60 days. Umachrizim b'boiker v'erev. We announce it day and night. So what do you mean this language of, okay, they're chayzer, but nasu kimi? What do you mean? It's like it was a mistake, but of our mission, it is a mistake. So the Gemara says, Ima hi hava minahanim shliach. Maybe we would say the mistake is only if we're talking about a shliach. Of a base in the low kamashmon. Maybe the base is one that made a mistake. We don't say such a thing. If it's more or less than 6, it's not a good sale. If let's say it was equal, machron kayim, my love, do achrus. Even if it was sold mamash for the right amount, if it wasn't, it would still be good. It's only because he oversold it or undersold it. Mashma, if he sold it for the right amount, so the din is that it would still be a good mechira even if he didn't do the announcement. Lo, bid achrus. It's necessary still, even if it was sold for the right amount of its value, nonetheless, it still has to be announced. So, how many seifa b'da achros havi reisha b'da achros? The tani seifa. Imasu igeres b'kairis. If let's say it was announced with this letter, I feel machur shava mana b'masayim shava masayim b'mamana. Machur kaim. Even in that situation, it's going to work. So the chiddush is that if there's achraza, even if it wasn't for 100 for 100, it wasn't sold for the right amount, it's still good. Which is mashma that you have to do achraza. So, olam bidalo achros. Really, we're talking about there was no achraza. Blue kasha. Kam b'devarim shemachrizin alehin. Kam b'devarim she'en machrizin alehin. There's certain things in which you announce, and some things that don't need to be announced. Ve'elehin devarim she'en machrizin alehin. So these are some of the things in which announcements do not need to be made. Avadim, when it comes to the selling of slaves, we'll discuss why. V'mataltalin, movable items, v'hashtaros. So what's the reason? Avadim, my time of my shema yishmu v'yivrachu. Because if you announce it, so because this guy's going to hear about it, he may end up running away. That's one. That's when it comes to an eved. Metaltalin hashtaros shema yignavu. Because maybe it's going to end up getting stolen. Okay. So that is one answer. Maybe it just depends on the time. There's certain times that there is no need for announcing because you need to be able to move quickly. How do we see that? Diamri Nardoi, which we had before, with cargo, when it comes to head tax, for them to be able to get mazonos and also kbura, to pay for the burial expenses, mizamninan below acharazata. You could sell them even without an announcement. There's some places that this is just not done, that there's no document, such as in Narda, this was something that was not done. Maybe the reason why they never made an achraz is because they're experts in these people. And therefore, it was a bezoyan to buy these fields because you'd be buying from poor people that can't keep their fields, as we're going to see. So that's the idea. The reason is not because they're experts in Shuma, it was because it's an embarrassment that, as I said, it would be a bezoyan to buy these fields because you're buying from poor people that can't keep their fields. When it comes to even the metaltalin of these children, Shoman Oisan, we evaluate it, Umaychon Oisan, the altar, we can sell it immediately, which means right next to the death of their fathers, even And the reason is because this metalton, we're concerned maybe it'll spoil, get rotten or ruined. Then it can be sold literally to the market. Ha de mikrav shuka, ha de mikrav shuka, ha de merchak shuka. What is if it's close? In other words, that today's the day of the marketplace, so it should be done. But if it's the marketplace day is further away, so then just sell it immediately, not even in the shuk. Rav Kahana havi biyade shichra derav misharshia bar chilkoi. So Rav Kahana had this beer, which was yasma. This person he was holding he was an orphan. Shahe ad ragla, and he waited to sell it until the regel. So Omar Afa gav the nafal be isatsta, even though the quality of this beer it may turn a little bit more vinegary. Maisi zuzah charifa. I'd rather wait, nonetheless, to have a zuzah charifa. Says Rashi, mimahir lavoi, something which will come quick. Lefi shakol strichin lekach, amevin mois ve'en makbidin lehen bashroi. So basically, the nafle itzasta maisi zuzah charifa. So people are going to want, because it's the regular time to purchase these items, so therefore he would wait. Ravina havi biyadi chamra de Ravina, zuti yasma, bar achde havi ledidei nami chamra, havi kamasik lesichra. So he used to ship it out. Mahu lamtuye bahadoin. Could I send their wine? You can go because there are no distinctions between yours and theirs. Okay, we're going to stop there. Let's see some questions. Question 7, which we saw all the way back. Omer Rav Yosef, our malatas, they have this almana that sells with achrayas, so they collect by the assignment. So to a beis din, it goes to the assignment. Kashib shita my kamashmon. So the chiddush is, when it comes to a beis din, the havamina, as he says here, number 7, kivan shehin moichrin bahachraza, since beis din has to announce ubatuach halokeach, and the buyer is pretty confident. She'ilu hoyu oleha sikin, if anyone was complaining about this property, hoyu yoitzin, they would have come out already. Uma'aran hilkach shlo b'achrayas hu lokach. So therefore he ends up buying it shlo b'achrayas, and therefore he can't collect in the assignment. So Kamash will know it was still done b'achrayas. Question 8. Mehem atamin, what are the reasons? Why did they not make these announcements? Either because they were experts in evaluation, so no mistakes were made, or as it's ganai v'cherpa, it's a humiliation to the people in Arda. When they buy such property, you're the one who consumes these fields. It's like a person who has a house in which the fee in which there was filed for bankruptcy, and you want to be able to purchase that house. So it should be like a little bit of embarrassment that you're running after, cashing in after other people's misfortunes. Question TB25. El devarim enan srichan hachraza umadua. So to answer TB25, you don't need to do announcements on avadim, because maybe they'll hear it and run away. Matalton and shtaros shol yignavu, so it doesn't get stolen. TB25. Okay. Good. TA 24. Leinin il gimel devarim amar shmuel demamenes enu kiyotz beget adkan.